Welcome to Cosmopolitan Christ Church, India. We are at Cosmopolitan Christ Church, work together with Christ to spread the gospel, nothing but God's power, which can save the spiritual lives of Indians, Americans, British, German, Russian, and the Asians throughout the globe. We are at Cosmopolitan Christ Church, India, loves to serve and accommodate struck up foreigners in India without taking a single penny. Call us for more details to the number 7386005545.
Emergency Grace. Welcome back to Cosmopolitan Christ Church live streaming. How are you all? God has given us a brand new week and we are already in the first day of the first new week, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church members. And we are at the end of the month, and in a couple of days we will be entering into a new month, that is September. So if you can see, God was protecting us and saving us, guarding us all through these 30 days in August month from so many miseries, difficulties, tensions and all. So for that we need to thank God, and we need to strengthen our faiths, we need to strengthen our believerships. Dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church members, today I was at your screens along with your God's new dimensional message titled Emergency Grace. If you can see this title, we are all heard about the grace given by Jesus Christ, the love, the grace, amazing grace, the grace which will give us comfort, the grace which will make us happy. So till today we heard about the meaning of grace as comfort, meaning of grace as happiness, meaning of grace as the life which we will lead in a smoother way. But today God is talking to you and me that the grace which I give you is emergency grace. The grace which we give is emergency grace. If you can see in our lives, otherwise so many people who are believers, who are faith process followers, God will show His mercy, otherwise show His grace in a sudden way, so that until that day the life of the person is normal, the life of the person is just like any other woman, any other man. But suddenly his life will change, suddenly his life will be elevated from other people, and suddenly he becomes isolated or identified from those people who are with whom he was living, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church members. I just wanted to make you understand that the grace Jesus Christ will show you is an emergency grace where you need that in an emergency need. Not that just like that, yes, I am a believer, I am following Jesus Christ, I am worshipping Him, and I am reading Bible and all, so God is giving grace. No, it's not like that. Emergency means the point of emergency means the lives of ours is in risk. So if our life was at risk, we will call it as emergency. So at that point of time, the support, the help we need is the support, the help which we need is to make our life lively. Make our life lively. See, if you can see, if somebody is critically ill, and we will take them to hospital, and at that point of time, he miserably needs the critical care, otherwise emergency care, so that he will be lived. His life will be in a secure position. So our Jesus Christ is here to give a an emergency grace which will give us a surprising life. Emergency grace which gives surprising life. So many times we see so many people, and suddenly after some time, after a gap of time, if we see them, we feel like, oh, this guy was completely changed. His lifestyle was completely changed. His attitude was completely changed. What is the reason? We start thinking about him, and once we research his life, what happened to his life, we can see something wonderful happened. Otherwise, something extraordinary, intellectual happened in his life. That's why his life was changed. So this person will be elevated. This person will be elevated from other people. God's grace is here to elevate you from other people and make you identified, otherwise a modeled believer, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church members. If you go to scriptures, 2 Chronicles 34th chapter 3rd verse. 2 Chronicles 34th chapter 3rd verse. Josiah, for in the 8th of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after the God of David. See, this Josiah is a king of Israelites. And there are so many kings who ruled Israelites. But all those kings didn't follow our father. That's why their names were not there in the Bible. Because before Josiah, so many kings came, and those kings didn't follow father. That's why Josiah suddenly he came back to his ancestral God, the Father, and he started worshipping Father. He began to seek after the God of David. The God of David is our Father. So when Josiah, the king of Israelites, started worshipping our Father, he was being elevated. There are so many Israelite kings, but this Josiah was elevated, and his name was there in the Bible because he followed the real God, the real Father, so that his life was changed surprisingly. His life was changed surprisingly because as Josiah began to seek God, God showed him an emergency grace. Till that day, before Josiah, there are so many kings. But if you can see all other kings' life, God was not there in their lives because other gods are there in their lives. So their lives was not elevated. Even though they are the kings, their lives was not elevated. They're like some common kings of other nationals. But once Josiah started seeking the real God, the real Father, he was brought into Bible. His name was written. And he suddenly the grace of Father, the free grace of Father began to shower on Josiah, and he, if you can see his ruling, if you can see his kingdom, once he seek God, he received the emergency grace of God, and his life, his kingdom, his ruling has changed, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church member. Like Josiah, maybe our forefathers was not known to this world. Maybe they are faithful, maybe they are believers, maybe they are Christians, but maybe they don't get that much of identification in Christ. Now it is time for us, it is time for It's time to you and it's time to me that we have to get elevated from our community, get elevated from our family, get elevated from our relatives, so that everybody can speak about your spiritual power. Otherwise, everybody can speak about your surprising, life-changing ministry, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church member. And if you can see the same 2 Chronicles 34th chapter 33rd verse, 2 Chronicles 34th chapter 33rd verse, and he had all who were present in Israel serve the Lord their God as long as he lived. They did not fail to follow the Lord, the God of their ancestor. Not even Josiah followed God, but he make all the Israelites to follow God. He make all the Israelites to follow God. This is the greatest thing in Josiah's life. It's not that we are known, Christ-known Christians. It's not that we are and our family, our relatives are following Christ and we are in believership, we are in faith. It's not like that. Like Josiah, we have to make other people to look towards Christ. That is the fulfillment of emergency grace of God. Sometimes God will bless us like anything, and with further blessings, even we also feel surprising. Why God? Why God? Why you are blessing me like this? Why you are developing like this? Why you are elevating my life? The only one reason is, like Josiah, as God elevated Josiah's life, he elevated others' life. So as Josiah, you have to, once you started realizing that God showed an emergency grace in your life and your life was transformed, your life was developed, your life was like surprising life, then you start elevating others' lives. You start elevating others' lives. And you start giving an emergency grace of God to those people. To those people. The people who don't know our God may be having the grace of so many things. So many people nowadays, they are in the thoughts of being successful, otherwise being victorious, otherwise having a healthy life, otherwise having a good identification, otherwise a good publicity in the public is a graceful life. Is a graceful life. But God is talking to you right now that it's not the grace of God, it's the grace of the world which was temporary. But the grace of God which you attain will be transferred to so many generations of your progeny, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church members. Once you receive the grace, it will not be stopped within your life. You start giving that emergency grace so that so many people will get an elevated life, a surprising life from God, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church members. So today God is talking to you and me that it's time we have to get the emergency grace, and not the common graces, not the common grace with which our lives will be elevated in riches, our lives will be elevated in wealth, our lives were elevated with our health. But it's time that we should get an emergency grace that we can change the lives of others. If you can see the grace of God, if you can see the grace of God, if you can see the love of God, if God don't have love, maybe He may not be creating this world, because God is love. God has grace. God has grace. So God is love and the world is God's. The world is God's. God is love. So the love and the world is within the God. So where are you running after? If you can come to God, you can have two things at a shot. One thing is love and another thing is word. If you can come to Jesus Christ, you will get the love, you will get the grace where you can change the lives of others. And if you come to Jesus Christ, you can change the world. Otherwise, you can become a specialized, otherwise elevated personality in this world, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church members. So, I urge all the Cosmopolitan Christ Church members to seek the emergency grace, not the common grace, and not the daily routine grace, and not the grace which will keep you away from the difficulties, not the grace which will keep you away from all the burdens and tensions. But God is talking to you right now that we have to have the grace, emergency grace, for which our lives will be elevated and others' lives will be elevated, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church member. Like Josiah, we have to show ourselves in our families, in our relatives, so that people can see the real grace, real love of God, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church members. So here, if you can see, Josiah served the Lord their God as long as he lived. They did not fail to follow the Lord. Josiah and his kingdom people also serve God. And once they started serving God, they have the lives of God. They have the blessings of the God. They have the happiness of God, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church members. So, it's always better to have an emergency grace in our Christian lives, so that our lives will be elevated. Our lives will be lifted, dear Cosmopolitan Christ Church members. And this is Kumar signing off from Cosmopolitan Christ Church live streaming. I will be back tomorrow with a newer dimensional God's message. Until then, be safe, be precautious. God bless you abundantly. Thank you so much.